My name is Kira Schindeldecker. I'm the 2020 JCI Greater Muskegon President. And today we have part 2 of our mental health series with HealthWest. Today we're going to be talking about the mental health of your children and working through that during our current pandemic. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Cece Riley over at HealthWest and let her introduce our speakers.
Awesome. Thanks, Kira. We're so happy to partner with the JCs and be able to bring you this content tonight from some of our HealthWest staff. For those who don't know, HealthWest is the community mental health for Muskegon County, and we serve individuals with primarily with developmental disabilities, severe mental illness, or substance use concerns, and that's birth all the way up till whatever, all ages. Mostly individuals on Medicaid. However, as times are changing, we're starting to serve individuals more and more that have private insurance as well. Tonight, I'm very excited to be joined by 2 stellar HealthWest staff. Tonight we have Debbie Letourneau here. She has a master's degree in social work. She's been a social worker for 23 years and has worked at HealthWest for the past 4 years, working primarily with individuals with developmental disabilities in the youth population, as well as individuals with serious mental illness. She's currently a clinician on the Youth Assessment and Stabilization team. She holds certifications in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, parenting through change, and PMTO, which is a parent management training. And those approaches provide parents with a set of unique tools to address challenging behaviors with youth. For fun, Debbie has an online herbal tea business, Nature's Healing Teas, and she does a variety of vendor shows, grows her own herbs, and blends them together to create healthy and organic teas, which was very fun to learn that about. Also joining us tonight is Jennifer Potter. She is a master's level clinician who also works on the Youth Assessment and Stabilization team at HealthWest. She's worked there for 4 years and has worked with various teams within the HealthWest Youth Services Division. She's facilitated parenting groups for over 3 years now and is working towards her certification in PTC, which is Parenting Through Change. A fun fact about Jennifer is that she loves summer, being outside, and playing with her new puppy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie and Jennifer. Thank you, guys.
Hello. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what PTC is, which it stands for Parenting Through Change. It's an evidence-based intervention that's been supported by over 50 years of research. It was originated in Oregon, and it is now considered a national program. Michigan Parenting Resource, which is a website that you'll get at the end for PTC. One of their slogans and beliefs is that caregivers are their children's most important teacher. And that's one of the things that we base things off of.
Yeah, and so what is PMTO meant to do? It's meant to support families in preventing child problem behaviors and to help caregivers to alleviate mild to moderate levels of child behavior problems in school-age children. But it is not meant to replace professional health services. We have, PMTO has parenting practices, and the first one is with directions, giving child directions. And this promotes children's cooperation and helps parents stay focused on the positive. We also have what they call tracking. So this is the notes. We note progress of what's working and what maybe needed to be adjusted. We also talk about emotional regulation. And this is learning ways to maintain a well-regulated emotional state to cope with everyday stress and be available for learning and interactions. And then the last one is we talk about communication, which communication is a very important part of Parenting Through Change. And it's the best parent-child relationships and is characterized by lots of positive communication and interaction. And positive is one of the main things that we try to focus on is, and Debbie will kind of talk about positive interaction and encouragement.
Right. So in PTC, or making change in any type of behavior, encouragement is the foundation. So one of the things that we wanted to have you do is either write down like a couple of strengths of your own strengths, or think about them, and a couple of strengths of your child's. What we have found that a lot of times, parents get so stressed that when you ask like what some of their child's strengths or what are they good at, they have a really hard time of thinking anything positive, but they can tell you all kinds of things that, that they mess up on, or some of the negative behaviors that they run into. But one of the important things about recognizing and being able to identify your strengths and your child's is that then you can start to build that foundation to make changes in behaviors. Then you're able to like identify behavior goals, like what type of behaviors are you looking for? Instead of focusing on what you don't want, it's focusing on what do you want to see? What type of behavior do you actually want? So all throughout PTC research over the many years, they've come up with a percentage of cooperation that is like ideal, that we would expect from our children. So just thinking about that, what would you think would be the percentage of cooperation you would expect from your children? Like in a given day, would you expect them to have positive behavior 100% of the time? No, most likely not. So what would that percentage, look like to you? So that's something like really to think about. PTC says that we should expect our children to cooperate and have positive behavior 70% of the time. That may surprise some of you. So, we don't expect them to, be always following directions, 80 or 90% of the time, just 70%. And so try to think about like praising your child as a way of teaching them of what they should be doing. So as you, the caregiver, being their best teacher, so when you are able to praise your child for performing or doing a positive behavior because they followed through with a direction, this can be like a powerful learning tool. So instead of always focusing on what they did wrong, it's to provide praise and give them lots of encouragement when you see the behaviors that you want. And research has also found that children learn best through encouragement, and when we model encouragement for them. Most caregivers find that they would rather see positive behaviors rather than negative behaviors. So Jen and I have developed, we're using a garden as a metaphor, and Jen's going to go through and talk to you about like some of the tools that we're going to use in our garden.
Okay, now I've never shared my screen before, so I'm going to try and do that today. And so I'm going to go to the, see if I can find it. It takes me 1 second.
It's okay, Jen. We'll wait.
Well, it's so good that I would want you to wait. Awesome. My computer's being a little slow, but get it there.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. All right, so we talk about the garden, and it's loading up right now. And this is basically a metaphor that we use. Hopefully everybody can see it. Okay. So this basically is we have tools for our garden, right? And building a garden begins with encouragement, which Debbie talked about. So the first thing that we want to talk about is our soil. And this is an important thing that we need for our garden. And that basically says, what do you want them to do versus what you don't want them to do? And so when we think about the soil, we think about a foundation of the plant. And when we talk about what we want them to do versus what they don't want to do, we talk about, we want the child to put their shoes away versus you never put your shoes away, right? So we want to tell them and be specific on what we want them to do. Right. We also have weeds sometimes in our garden, right? And we call those in PMTO or PTC world cabooses. And Deb and I are going to kind of role play a caboose or a weed, and we're going to basically give a good direction or a wrong direction first, and then we're going to do a good direction after that. So I'm going to be the parent, and Deb's going to be the child. Are you ready, Deb? Mm-hmm. Are you there, Deb?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Deb to put her shoes away, and this is the wrong way versus the right way. So will you please put those shoes away? How many times do I have to tell you?
I'm not putting them away. You can put them away.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of being negative as far as telling them what we want them. We're telling them what they never do, right? Versus what we want them to do. And we want to promote cooperation. So we're going to do a right way now versus a wrong way. And the right way would be, Deb, pick up your shoes now, please. All right, give you 5. So we basically, the part that we definitely want to encourage is that praise at the end of those high fives. And Deb's going to kind of debrief this role play that we did for you and kind of talk more about it.
Right. So think about like the difference between the right way versus the wrong way. So in the right way, Jen used my name. So therefore she got my attention. Instead of just yelling out to whoever she may be talking to. And she told me what she wanted me to do, which was to pick up my shoes. And the now told me when she wanted it done. So there wasn't any, as we call a caboose, of saying that how many times does she have to tell me. Instead, she was specific. She used my name, told me what she wanted, when she wanted, and then when I complied, then we got a high five.
All right, so now let's talk about another tool in our garden. And this is called a 5-to-1. PMTO uses 5-to-1 ratio. And this means for every praise, we do 1 discipline. So we want to focus more on encouragement and praise versus discipline. And so when we think of praises, we think of good job, right? Or we think of giving incentives. We think about those high fives. We just gave a high five, demonstrated what the high five for that is. Maybe a fist bump. So we kind of wonder what kind of praise do each of us use when we think about the 5-to-1 ratio.
Right.
The next tool in our garden is structure and routine, which symbolizes our sunshine and nutrients, right? We symbolized water in our graph there with our garden, And what do we think about when we think of structure and routine? We think of fertilizer, which is consistency and follow through. We think of routines, right? We have bedtime routines, we have morning routines, we have school routines. We think of those routines. We think about structure. We need to follow through on what you say, which is either praise or discipline, and then we need to be consistent. And this is part of our structure and discipline. And structure and routine set the child up for success, and really structure and routine and fertilizer and sunshine and nutrients basically maintain the garden, right? So when we think of the weeds, we think of weeds coming into our garden. We think of, if we don't set the child up for success through structure and routines, then we get weeds, which could be meltdowns. And we don't ever want to deal with have to do the meltdowns, but we can do it. So Deb's going to kind of talk about our shining our light.
So we have a saying in PTC that's shining your light on what you want to grow. So your light would be, your focus, your energy. What are you really paying attention to? So if you're putting a lot of emphasis on negative behaviors, you're going to get more negative behaviors. If you shine that light on positive and good behavior, then that's what you're going to see more of. The research shows that, children really do want to please their parents. They like receiving praise and encouragement, and shining your light is just like an easy saying to remember. So always shine your light on what you want to grow. And at the bottom of the little garden metaphor, we put the parenting resource link at the bottom. This is a link that's through Michigan PMTO, and you can, any parent, anyone actually, can go on there. You can set up your own username and log in, and it has all kinds of good parenting resources, and you can learn more about PTC. So, Cece?
Couldn't unmute. I'm here. Were you looking for me to share a few resources as well?
If you have any additional that you wanted to share. I know you said before you shared the 722 help. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I was just actually going to pull up our flyer on that so that you guys could see. One thing I will share, just a second, I'll put it up here. HealthWest, since we've been kind of, we're fully operational during the COVID-19 pandemic, but we are doing a lot of telehealth and virtual services. Mm-hmm. So one thing that we've done is that we've moved a lot of our groups to be virtual groups. And so we have a whole slew of open to the community groups. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here really quick. Okay. So on the HealthWest website, which is healthwest.net, under community resources, you'll see a community virtual groups tab. It's the first tab there. And this shows all of the various groups that we have that are open to the community. You don't need to be enrolled in HealthWest services in order to participate in these. So we have a daily talk time for anyone who's just looking for someone to come and talk to. It's very lighthearted. That's at 1 o'clock every day. We have Smart Recovery, which is offered for both teens and adults, and that is an evidence-based model that's used for recovery from any sort of addiction. It's a very well-attended group, and individuals receive a lot of support there. You can see kind of through this list that there's a whole slew of events for both youth, families, and adults. And so be sure to check that out. And then the other thing, I think I got to do a new share to share this one. We have recently converted what we used to call the 24-hour crisis line into what is now considered to be a warm line. And what a warm line is that essentially means that you can access this phone number. The phone number is 722-HELP. I'll go ahead and share my screen so you can see this document. HELP, yeah. And so by calling 722-HELP, you can get connected for pretty much like any behavioral health need that you might be, whether it's at a crisis level or you're just looking for someone to talk to. Maybe you're looking for information on upcoming trainings such as this one, or requests for service. Really any mental health need at all, you can call that 722-HELP number. It is answered 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so we want to make sure that that's something that the community knows that they can access at large. Another service that we offer the community that a lot of people aren't aware of is something called psychological first aid. And we have a whole team of individuals at HealthWest that are trained in psychological first aid to provide a response when somebody's encountered a traumatic event. That event could be anything from a natural disaster to the death of a loved one. It could even be the recent instance with the George Floyd killing. Really, whatever traumatic experience somebody has identified that themselves or a loved one has gone through, we have a team that can help kind of debrief that with them, which really we know helps prevent the onset of mental health concerns down the line if we can kind of treat those immediate needs. So you can call that 722-HELP number to also get connected for that resource as well. And I think that's the bulk of what we had to share.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Debbie and Jennifer, for sharing those great insights. I know I will be using them going into parenting and with my kids. So I definitely appreciate that.